Hi Design Pros, welcome to the Lunch and Learn Business Growth Series. I'm Elsa Johnson, your host and founder of Elsa Johnson Coaching, where I guide my clients to lead with intention and thrive by design. This series is designed for you, interior designers and window coverings business owners who are ready to level up, attract more clients, and grow with confidence. Each month, I bring in industry experts to share game-changing strategies that you can apply right away. No fluff, no sales pitches, just real value to help you thrive. So grab your notes, get inspired, and don't forget, subscribe to the channel for more expert insights and updates. You'll find all the event details and contact information for myself and the industry experts in the notes below. Ready to grow? Let's dive in. Without further ado, I want to introduce David, who I know through another group, and I just come to truly respect his insights, his desire for creating businesses that are financially viable, for focusing on the things that we all know in the end is going to pay the bills. And we all have blind spots, right? I ran my own interior design business and I focused on window treatment for over 2 decades. And 2 things I know got in my way: my finances and my mindset. I chose myself to focus on the mindset. David is focusing on the financials, which is also driven decisionally wise through our mindset. So David, take it from here. I will spotlight myself, and then the floor is yours.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks very much, Elsa. I really appreciate you having me here today. This will be fun. Real quick, a little bit about me, just so you guys know who you're talking to here. David Visco from Your Business Made Easy. I've owned several businesses over the years, mostly in the service-based industries. I've owned a cleaning company. My wife and I owned an e-commerce business for a dozen years or so, which we sold. So I've gone through that whole process of selling a business. Right before COVID hit, after we sold our business, we bought a travel franchise. And 2 months after that, COVID hit. So we learned a lot about how to deal with that because nobody was traveling. Anyway, so we grew that business. And as we were growing that, I was talking to more and more business owners during networking groups and that type of thing, and realized many of the smaller business owners, some of like yourselves, could really use some of my experience and my help. So what I started doing was coaching. So some people in my networking groups were like, hey, David, could you coach me a bit? And I'm like, okay, sure, absolutely. And I really enjoyed it. And so from there, I started coaching full-time. My wife's handling our travel business. And along with that, I also help people sell their businesses too. But my real focus these days is helping small service-based business owners like yourself make more profits. So make more money, make more profits. A lot of what happens these days is business owners spinning their wheels all day long, right? You're just doing the best you can with what you know, with what you have. You get out of bed, you go to work, you're busy as hell, answering emails, you're just doing the thing. And what happens is by the end of the day, a lot of times I find people like, what did I get done? And then you go and you take a look at your financials and you're like, okay, the money in that bank account does not equate to the effort that I put in. So what I found over the years is a number of blind spots, as I call them, that business owners have, especially the smaller business owner, the 6-figure and under business owner, that they have about their business, things that they just don't see throughout their busy days. So what I wanted to do was point out a number of those. I've got a bunch of them. I have over 10, and I've got a little book that you guys can have after that's got all 10 in them. But I was just going to go through a number of the top ones that I see so many business owners dealing with. And what happens is I coach my my client in a weekly group, and we go over a lot of these issues here, and they bring them to what we call a hot seat, which is really great. So we get to tear through any issues that they have. And a lot of those issues are surrounded amongst what I'm going to talk about. So right off the bat, something that I focus on first and foremost with all my clients is making sure that they're focusing on their profits. So many business owners just race to increase their revenues. The problem with that is revenues can be fun and they could be great and whatnot. But if you don't have any profits at the end of the day, it's not going to do you a heck of a lot of good. You're not going to be paying yourself. You're not going to have money to grow. You're not going to be able to afford new software, new equipment, hire employees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, spend on marketing, all those good fun things. So what I'd like to do is focus on some of the areas where your profits are hidden in your business. One of those in particular is in your expenses. And it might seem pretty obvious that, if you're going to look to increase profits, maybe I should take a hard look at my expenses. Well, I can tell you that many of my clients barely ever look at their financial statements. In fact, many of them aren't even sure how to read them properly. And they're not even sure what profit is versus revenue. And so we do a lot of training on that to really simplify it for folks. But at the end of the day, you've got your revenue minus your cost of goods sold. And from that is your gross profits. After that, whatever money's left over, that's there to cover your expenses. And those expenses can really eat away at what's left over, which is your profits. I'll give you an example. One client I started working on early with, we were tearing through his expenses. He had not looked at his expenses for 7 or 8 months. And so we're looking at them. And as it turned out, he was paying $500 a month for search engine optimization services. And he was getting nothing from that. Complete waste of money. $6,000 a year right down the pipe. And what we discovered was, after looking at that, we dug further and found other expenses that he was paying for he didn't even realize. It was subscriptions, it was other things that he just had completely forgotten about. So the lesson here is to, on a monthly basis, and I have all my clients do this, go through your financial statements, go through your checkbook, make sure that you know where your money is going. Look at your credit card statements as well. Make sure it's all tying out to exactly what you think you're spending on, because I guarantee you there's something in there that you're spending that you've either forgotten about or that you don't want to. Another way to increase your profits, and this one will scare everybody, but consider raising your prices. Nearly every client that I talk to, one of the first things we do is increase their prices by at least 10%. And, a lot of folks will push back and they'll be like, I can't do that. And you can, you absolutely can. Most of the time, you can actually increase it even more than that. The key, though, is to make sure that you're providing much more value to the folks than what your competition is charging. So here's what happens is, if you get into a battle on pricing and you're always just being compared to pricing, you're never going to win. That's a race to the bottom for sure. Very cliche, but absolutely true. So the idea is to figure out what value can you bring to your client base, to your marketplace, that your competitors aren't. What we do often is look through competitors' websites. You could throw it in a chat GPT. You could throw in your website too, and you can ask it, hey, where am I missing the mark here? Where are there opportunities for me to provide more value than my competition? We did that with a recent client, and it was amazing what it uncovered. So it's such a valuable exercise to go through. But if you can increase your prices, that's huge, because that goes right to your bottom line and hopefully into your pocket. Another way of increasing your profits, and there are so many, so I'm only going to go through a few here, but here you go. Stop discounting. So many folks think that putting a discount out there is the way to win business. And just like increasing value is a better way to do it, removing discounting from your pricing strategy is significant. Let me explain why. Let's say, as an example, that your price for whatever your widget is $100, just to make the math easy. Let's suppose that the cost for that widget is $70, either your service or whatever it is that you have out there. That leaves you a profit of $30, right? Very simple math. $100 less $70 of cost leaves you $30 gross profit. If you discount that 10%, like so many people just throw that 10% discount on because it's such a small figure, it's not really going to impact me much. It does. It does significantly. That's actually a 33% discount. It's not only a 10. You're losing, think of it this way. So all of a sudden your price goes from $100 to 90. Your cost is still 70. So now you're only making 20 instead of 30. That's a 33% difference. And that makes its way down to your pocketbook. So it's so important to get rid of discounting from, there are times, of course, when it makes sense, but it should not be the go-to. And what I find so often is people immediately go to discounting. And think about this. So often people discount way more than just 10%. So that has even a bigger impact on your net profits. So the whole idea here is to just think about things differently, because there's all these blind spots and hidden profits in your business that people just don't see. I'm really glad we got that one out of the way. Another one would be to renegotiate with your suppliers. Just reach out to your suppliers. Just say, hey, can you do better? It never hurts to ask, right? I live by that mantra all the time. I drive people crazy with it. Just ask. It doesn't hurt. And they might have some other program, some payment plan. There's all sorts of things that can be done, but I find that we just get in the mode of just doing it always the same thing. Just go along. These are the deals I have in place, and then go about your business. But there's money hidden there with your suppliers, I guarantee it. With one client of mine, what we did is we went out to like 5 of his suppliers, and we asked every single one of them to requote. And we told 2 of them that we were not going to come back to them unless they gave us a better price. One of them said, never mind. The other one came back and reduced his prices by 12%. That's a significant difference right to the bottom line. So never hurts to ask. So another blind spot, this is really important that a lot of folks miss, and we hit on it pretty early, is knowing your numbers. I find a lot of business owners don't know their numbers. So what does that mean? That means knowing how to read your profit and loss statement. I'll give you a story here. So one client I know, we just turn over his shoebox of receipts, if you will, right? At the end of every year, just give it to his CPA and then pay whatever taxes he had to or whatever. He didn't understand anything about his business, nothing whatsoever. What we wound up doing instead was every single month, he would keep track of his profit and loss statement. We would go through it. We kept it in a shared drive. I would meet with his bookkeeper too. So the 3 of us would get on a call monthly, and we would go through them and really analyze what's going on with his business. And that was significant. What happened was after a few months, he was able to do that on his own. He didn't need me on the calls, but what I did was I got on quarterly with them instead. And we just stayed on it together as a group, and it was fantastic. He, over time, learned how to read it on his own, and now he knows his numbers. But there's more numbers involved beyond just the P&L. An incredibly important number to know is your lifetime value of a customer. Have you ever calculated what that value is? The reason why it's so important is if you know what it costs or what the value of a customer is, then you can determine how much money you can spend to get a new one. For example, let's just say that the lifetime value of your average customer over 3 years is $3,000, whatever, right? Theoretically, you could pay up to $3,000 to get a new one and break even. By knowing those figures, you could put your marketing budget together, and you can feel really confident that you're spending the right amount of money on your marketing. As opposed to, and I see this often, is people might only spend 2, maybe 3% on their marketing, whereby they're not growing because they're not spending enough on marketing. I mean, depending on the industry and the size of your business and a whole lot of other things, the average is like 5 to 12% of your sales should be spent on marketing, depending on your situation and whatnot, but certainly not less than 5. But the idea here is you should be spending to get more clients. And if you know what the lifetime value of your customer is, then you'll know exactly how much you could spend to get a new one without losing money. That's a big one. Cost to acquire a customer is also extremely important. Knowing exactly how much it costs you to get a client is absolutely key so that you could keep track of it along with your lifetime value of a customer. I know we're almost out of time here, but what I wanted to clarify is there's at least 10 KPIs, key performance indicators, that that we track on a regular basis for all my clients, and we go over them every single month. That way it goes back to the point I made about knowing your numbers, knowing your business, instead of just getting out of bed every day and doing the best you can and then going back to bed and going back to sleep and then going back to work. You got to know your data. You got to know your numbers. That's the only way your business is going to grow. So I hope that that helps that, Elsa. If I have more time, I'm happy to keep going.
You can take a few more minutes.
Okay, very cool. Awesome. Let's see. So another fantastic way of getting more profits and more revenue is to put a crazy guarantee out there of your work, like something that's going to make you cringe, something that people are going to say, you freaking nuts, like giving away that much for free. Whatever it is that you can offer that's way over the top, that your competition would never copy, but you feel confident that you could cover it, I would suggest doing so, because that is a great way to jump out ahead of your competition. There's all sorts of things you can do. I'll give you a really quick example of something that we did with our former business. We had a product that was very competitive in the marketplace, and it was really expensive. What we did was we decided to put a guarantee out there that if you try this product and you don't like it, you could actually send it back to us on my dime, and we'd give you a full refund whether it is used or not. And that used product we couldn't use again. We're talking something that the average order would be over $1,000. So, and we would sell 30 or 40 of them a week. So there was a lot of money going out there and coming in for this product. We could have absolutely lost our shirt if people had taken us up on this and just started, buying the product and then returning it. In 3 years, it only happened once that somebody actually returned $750 worth of the product. But it increased our revenue over 23% because it was such a significant product for us. And we're talking a 7-figure business here. So if you could come up with a guarantee that's just completely outrageous, but you feel like you could cover it, and a lot of times the increased business you're going to get from a guarantee will far outweigh the potential cost of somebody calling you on it. So you can get really creative with that, and it can really make a huge difference if you put something like that out there, because more than likely competition isn't going to do what you're talking about here. So I hope that helps everybody.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Let's see. So